Hello. Okay, everybody can hear me. That's great. Leonard, Arul. Thanks, Lori, and welcome everybody. I think you're having a fun day. Too much fun. A lot of interesting topic covered today. It's great. So, all right. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Copilot. So, the flow of the deck, or flow of this presentation will be we'll walk through what Copilot is, what are the different kind of offerings from Microsoft's Copilot. Everybody had used Copilot in one form or the other in different cases. We'll go through that, and a bit on the extensibility of Copilot, about M365, Copilot Studio. From there, we'll go to the latest announcements of agents, how Copilots have agents into extensibility. Then we'll take a look at what's next on the M&E space for Copilot. And after that, I'll invite two of my colleagues who have spent a lot of time in M&E to share their experience on Copilots. So let's dig in. So Copilot is designed to enhance your productivity and streamline your workflow. It's currently used by various industries for various part of transformation. This is the generic Copilot we're talking about. You can download it from the web on your mobile device. It's part of your Bing interface. So what you generally do is a common task like learn. You can find something new. You can go ask questions about certain things you want to learn from. Create new documents. You can ask it to create documents and summarize documents. You've done it all using your general AI practice, and that's what the generic Copilot does. The next piece from that version, we also have something called Copilot Pro. So this plain vanilla Copilot Pro, you have to pay like a subscription. You get a higher priority queue. So these two are standalone ecosystem. The third one is called the M365 Copilot. That's where you bring all your data together to enhance the information out of Copilot. Okay, that's good. Both sides, okay. So this is the M365 Copilot. As you can see, it spawns across all your devices. You have an enterprise-grade security around it. It's all about your data. So we take all the data related to M365. We create something called the Microsoft Graph, and your Copilot have access to that Microsoft Graph and an LLM behind it, OpenAI LLM. So we get that extra information. We call a process called grounding. You put a prompt in. It takes the prompt, uses grounding process to get all the information needed from your graph, then sends it to an LLM, gets the response back, and that response, if it needs to be deciphered, it gets out of this Microsoft graph information and then passes it back to the user. There's a lot of things goes on in the back, and it's all protected using Microsoft security layer. It's all the data is yours. There's no training. The LLM doesn't know anything about it. It's all under your governance. We generally call it KUMP, or we also call it Summit, where it's generally secure, understand, maintain, mobilize, integrate, and trust your data. So that's the customer's paradigm to own the data and control the data. We don't take anything out of that ecosystem. So this is the next layer. As you can see, you have the skills layer, you have knowledge layer, which we touched about. And then you have the M365 Copilot, and then the latest releases are called agents. So what are these agents? On the right side, you can see on the top, you have two options. One's called the web, one's called the work. When you go to the work, that's where it gets all your Microsoft Graph data from your email and puts it all together as one bundle, and then it uses it to get the output. On the right side, you also have something called create agents. You can go in, create an agent. Let's say you have a document, you have a policy, you have something related to your company, and you want your team members to stick to that standards. We want to make sure they are in compliance with the document you're building. You can create an agent and publish it. It's just like creating a file. You create a file, you share a file, you can create an agent, you share the link to your team. They can use that link to validate their ecosystem. So that's the latest release called Create an Agent. Again, it's all under 365 security. You have to go and your admin should give you rights, should have the right connector information, accessibility, and then you get granted to the access and the data source. So that's how the agent access works. Now let's take a look at, okay, now we understood about Copilot, offerings, M365. Let's take a look at, let's say I have a M&E workload. I have a script. I want to understand more about what's going on the script. So that's this quick video is about. So you can have multiple choices to get access to Copilot to the script. You can upload it, you can leave it in your OneDrive, let it access through M365, a graph, or you can create an agent. In the situation, as you can see on the right side, I create an agent and I published it. So this agent acts as a script helper analysis, script information, whatever you want to call it, to my team to start asking questions about the movie script. We have rights to the Halo script, so I've just used that one on this case. So first, I'm going to ask for a knowledge base. Tell me about some information. First, I'm going to tell, okay, you are so-and-so. You are a knowledge helper for the script. It understood all that information. Then I'm asking the script about, I couldn't pause it, okay. So what I asked is, give me a summary. It gave me a log line, strengths, weakness, recommendation, all that kind of information about the script. Following that, we go into details about, give me about episodes. I don't know if you can see the prompts. I should have made it a little bigger. But following that, I can ask questions about episodes. What episodes are there? How many episodes are there? What are each scenes on the episode? I can even say, a character is doing certain action in a certain situation. Get me more information from that. Kind of that detail. You can go and have a good conversation. You can also ask it to change the format. Instead of giving me a 1 point, give me a paragraph. Give me a little bit more explanation about how this particular scene turns out, or recommend how do I change the scene from a tragic end to a happy ending. You can ask based on demographics. You can ask based on where this movie is going to be showed at, and all that information. So now we just saw the text. We can go into visualization too. Now, the same way I'm just giving information about a situation, and ask, okay, for this scene, how do I have camera angles? I'm just asking information about how the camera movements, kind of lenses I should use. Just using the text scene information, it gives you all the recommended information for the camera situation. You can ask it in a defined format. And finally, you can also ask for, give me like a storyboard layout of what is being shot. So now you can get even more creative and define a template to create storyboard and start creating storyboard for each scene, sequence, however you want to do it. This is all part of generic Copilot M365. You can have access to it. Okay, let's. So similar way, you can go into like costume definitions, ask about this is a character of this age, how this costume for that character should look like, what are the possible options, changes you can make. And you can even ask about, if this is the situation, what are the characters you recommend who currently are available in trend to act in that role. This one is more towards rights management, tax credits. It'll have all that information to say what are the places closest to creating a certain things. You can do inline ads. So if the output comes out with 3 or 4 countries, you can also say add these 2 countries, and from then on, the whole session will have an updated learning information, and that carries forward. So I added 2 more countries, and the rest of the output will also carry forward with those countries too. So it does inline learning as you go for that session. Right. Create fonts, yeah. So that's the information. Yeah, you get more. In short, you're getting all that information. So this is the generic Copilot you're available as part of your M365. And this showcases where we are heading next with new models. Do you have the sound? Sorry. Go back.
Clipchamp in Copilot makes it quick and easy for anyone to create a video. Let's watch Sim make one.
Okay, I want to make a video announcing my coffee shop grand opening. I'll drop my clips in and see if Copilot can help me put it together. Wow, there's already a preview created for me. That was quick.
I've also stabilized and color graded the footage and enhanced some shots by zooming in and slowing them down.
I want to add another clip, but it's a different size to the rest of my video. Copilot has magically made my clip wider by reimagining the background, and it looks like the music and the other shots have all been adjusted around the new clip. That's so helpful. What if I want to add some text to my video?
What do you think about coffee brings us together?
Copilot has even gone ahead and written the perfect line for my video.
Would you like me to jazz this scene up with some special effects?
The music notes are really cool. I didn't know you could put something like this in a video. I want my video to sound more like my coffee shop playlist.
Do you like any of these options?
Perfect. One last thing. I need my logo in the video. How cool is this animation? I feel like a movie director with Copilot as my production team. With a little help, my shop is open for business.
Alrighty, so now let's move to the next part of the presentation. I'm going to call in two of my esteemed colleagues who have been in this M&E space for a very, very long time, Nina and Elliot.
Careful there.
Hello, hello, welcome.
Hi, Nina Skoris-Neely with Microsoft. I'm an industry advisor there.
Oh, hey, Elliot Sakartov, account executive for media and entertainment. Count of hands, who loves email? I can see you guys all. Yes. Yeah, that's really what we do on a daily basis. We just talk about email. So just curious, you guys must really love productivity and PowerPoints, and that's sort of your thing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure.
All right. Cool. So Nina, why don't you talk about how Copilot helped you with your day-to-day?
Sure. I actually like to think about Copilot in three ways. Impact on the individual, impact on teams, and impact on enterprises. So from a personal productivity perspective, Leonard shared quite a bit about what's integrated with the M365 platform. For me, emails, they suck. But
PowerPoint.
just PowerPoint, whatever. But seriously, being able to leverage the Copilot capabilities to summarize when I've been out for a couple days, if I'm out sick, just being able to get caught up on conversations, being able to go into lengthy Word documents and have a summary automatically put at the top so I can quickly grasp what the key concepts are and then hone in on the places that I actually need to contribute. All of those for me personally are really helpful individual productivity activities. I would say my favorite, meeting Copilot, and the ability to record or transcribe a meeting and then have action items and summaries available to me by the end of the meeting that I can share with everyone there, and we can agree. You always end a meeting and you never have time to summarize who's on point for what, and then you have another meeting to pick up what you really should have summarized the last time. So being able to do all that stuff, or when you're double or triple booked, and being able to follow a meeting and then get the recap of that afterwards, really super helpful for me from an individual productivity perspective.
Yeah, definitely those things. Also, I think, obviously we come from a perspective where we're all using Microsoft tools and we have all the access to all the things, and I don't think everybody's in the same exact ecosystem. The folks at Amazon are starting to get in that system as well. But the power of Copilot and power of the platform itself comes from having the Microsoft Graph. And I'm sure nobody knows what that is, which is totally fine, but basically, as soon as you start to utilize email and Teams and OneDrive and SharePoint, that becomes part of the graph and the data becomes available. So now I can get a whole bunch of really interesting insights, but more importantly, so can Copilot. So it can actually run my life and my day-to-day business and by emails, all from the data that it has about me and the way that I work. So if I don't feel like creating a PowerPoint, well, that's great. Copilot can create a PowerPoint for me with all the data it has about me. I don't need to prompt it with too much information to say, hey, based on this document, go create a presentation, or actually we just launched, go create a video with this information that I can present, which saves a bunch of time. But ultimately where I get super excited is scheduler. So the worst thing that I do on a daily basis is try to coordinate 60 people on an email to figure out what time everyone's available. So using a bot to go out and figure out everyone else's schedule, come back with some suggestions in terms of like what days and what times are available for everybody to connect, and then hitting send, that's actually a phenomenal use for me.
Yeah. I did want to point out, I don't know that it came across really clearly, but I do want to make this point again. That Microsoft graph is on your tenant. That data is not uploaded into Microsoft ecosystem. It's not used to train your models. And I know security of your content is really, really important. I think we've been very, very careful about ensuring that that remains your data and that it's not being leveraged for other things.
But I think we also talk about extensibility. So it's not just the Microsoft ecosystem, it's all the other things you guys do on a daily basis. There's connectivity into Workday, there's connectivity into Asana. Is there other demos here? Perfect. Copilot Studio, yeah. So you can extend out the solution. It's from Box, wherever it happens to live. I think those are sort of the time savers. Every now and again, you can go into the Copilot Studio or actually BizChat. We have so many things called Copilot. It's hard to keep track, but I decided one day I was tired of sending email messages from a template perspective to a bunch of people. So I asked it to create a MailChimp clone for me, so where I can manage distribution lists, I can manage the messages that are being sent out, add and remove people, and create them dynamically. And so it created a really basic version of MailChimp. Took me 15 minutes to get that up and running from scratch. It's actually pretty nice.
I talked earlier about individual productivity, then team productivity, and Leonard shared a little bit about agents that are coming out. So we're now starting to see what I would call citizen developers in this area, starting to look at common functions their teams perform or their organizations perform, and starting to build these agents, or they're coming out from Microsoft. On a more kind of generic basis, we're starting to see things like shopping advisors and retail operations advisors and those types of things. I could easily see as well things like being able to point at standard operating procedures for HR, but convert that on the creative side and say standard operating procedures for my creative artists on how to use my media asset management solution, or how to use specific tools per my company standards, and making those things available through Copilot to get your creative teams up and productive as quickly as possible, particularly when you've got gig workers or new employees or whatever. So I think there's a lot of potential productivity gain around that area that we have yet to really tap.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is I can't find anything. I'm terrible at keeping stuff somewhere. I'm sure we're all in the same place. It's on my desktop, it's in my downloaded items, it's in OneDrive or Box or whatever it is. And so being able to go and say, hey, there's a document somewhere that said something about, a goose with a golden egg. Can you find that document and tell me what it actually said and give me a summary? And by the way, who sent it to me? What time was that email? Those are the sorts of things that we're starting to find from a productivity perspective. It's saving me a ton of time using search, and I think we all know how fantastic the search is in Outlook if you're using that product. That's one of the things that I'm really actually super excited about from Copilot, is being able to find something.
Yeah, and frankly, I use it also a lot for just preparation for anything, prepping for a meeting. What material has been shared previously, what's the latest version of that, so I can take a look at it ahead of time. If I'm meeting somebody new, can you summarize for me their LinkedIn profiles and tell me the 3 key things they're going to care about, or the challenges they've run into based on the type of role they're in. All those kinds of things are immediate productivity improvements that just help either at the individual or a team level, that are just allow me to focus on the core of my job and not the administrative mechanics behind it. I'm still in control, but I've got something to accelerate for me. I will say personally, I've probably cut my overtime down about 60 to 80%. And that means I can spend time with my family.
When I think about customers and what they're doing with it, I talk to the agencies. Call rolling is super important. One of the things we talk to them about potentially is, can I have a Teams call listening side by side with whatever I'm rolling, if I'm rolling calls, creating a summary, sending that to the assistant, having the assistant make the changes and remove most of the curse words, and then sending the summary back to the agent. Those are some of the things that we're starting to see people get interested in. also creating custom dictionaries so that the terminology is correct. So when somebody calls you an asshole, they actually really mean a nice thing, I guess. And then just having it sort of like do that translation on your behalf. But like call rolling is one thing that we see from an industry perspective. That's something that can be helpful and useful.
One thing I want to talk about is one thing I also want to showcase is the Copilot Studio.
Yeah.
So this is on the left side of this picture. You have your M365 apps, your documents, your Outlook, your Teams, everything on your M365. Then you have your Microsoft Graph grounding on that information. Then for special needs, you wanted something to unique. You want to create, let's say you have an old web app, username, password. You need to log into every day 10 times to figure out what's going on. You can actually go into Copilot, create a connector for just that app, bring it back into your custom Copilot. So you have it as part of a custom Copilot, or you bring it into the Copilot interface, or you can connect it into your website and start using it as a custom interface to all the data you have. So again, the whole ecosystem stays, as Nina said, inside your tenancy. It doesn't leave your tenancy. The LLM doesn't use to train or anything of that sort. Everything is inside your paradigm. Just think about it as your OneDrive, your document, your stuff, how they stayed, and it will stay as it is. So that's
Probably one last area that I think we've got a lot of potential in this space is in the business operations side. The budgeting stuff, like all of those kinds of things. Find me 3 budgets that are for films like this that I can use as a starting point for my budgeting process. My favorite one that I'm really convinced I'm going to be building some more stuff on this year is analyze this legal contract and summarize my legal obligations and rights from a distribution standpoint, and getting a consistent answer off of that, or at least getting a starting point through which you can use, or which you can use as a basis for further rights research and clearances. So I could probably go on for hours. I mean, Elliot and I will probably riff on some of this stuff, but
we start talking about rights and avails as it comes off that from a distribution perspective, but understanding where you have rights and based on the contract that's coming in, those are some of. Actually, it's interesting from a sales perspective for international distribution. Being able to understand what rights you do have and being able to pull that information in, it's one of the key things we get from Copilot.
Even going back to some of the stuff that the support partners team shared with us in terms of their ability to pull stock footage or previously cut footage for some of your scenes and everything else. I could see integrating that with rights management to make certain that you actually know what rights you have cleared on that. So that you don't put it in a film that is targeted at the Thai audience and you don't have rights for that in Thailand. So, I think the use cases go on. What I've shared with others and my colleagues have shared with others is just get out there and start playing with it. Like, explore. It's important to start getting versed in this technology and understand what it's capable of, and challenge your teammates to start sharing what's been useful to them. You'd be surprised some of the ideas people have come up with, even some that I'm going to steal from my buddy here that he mentioned today. In terms of small things that they've done that will help improve your productivity. It just makes your life easier and allows you to refocus on the core of your job, the creative aspects that you really want to spend your time on, because that's what you love. You wouldn't be in this industry if you didn't.
I'm super curious from the audience here, for questions, but I'm going to prompt you guys with a question. What is it that you struggle with on a daily basis? What is the menial task that you guys repeat time and time and time again to that you think that a bot might be able to help with? Phil's got a question. I can see it.
No.
Everybody's like perfectly happy at work. Where do you guys work?
Well, I could start. Just to your point, after a day of meetings, and my notes are on like scraps of paper and all of that stuff, and if I'm on a Zoom call, but then I have to go to Teams, and then I have to go somewhere else, and because some of us who are independents don't have it all on Teams, and so we're all over the place. So, is there a way that your world can help us in the cacophony of all the madness?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's hard to bring back all of the different pieces, right? So you've got something in Slack, then you've got something in Zoom, and then you've got something in Teams, and you've got something in email, and then you've got something in Gmail. It's really hard to pull that all together. So the question is how do you get access to it? So some of the stuff that Leonard was showing here with the connectors will help with that, but we can't get access to everything. So some of it's going to be a little bit of guesswork. Some of it's going to be a little bit of you putting it into OneNote, for example. Just copy and paste everything into OneNote, and now it's all part of that search.
I think, microphone. I mean, I'm already doing this, but there's certainly room for improvement. Planning frameworks, they're largely identical. The content is different, but optimizing those, because you do feel like you're doing 60, 70% of the time the same thing. Even like doing the first draft of a script, you're following the same story arcs, and you want to bang out a rough idea before the humans get involved and start polishing it for simple stuff. But planning for me is the big thing, because they're big, they take a long time, they're repetitive, but also within that, constantly refining them as well. So it's a sort of statement, but a bit of a question around AI being able to anticipate improvements, right? So versus you constantly finding the improvements.
To optimize your plans, you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there was a story recently about how a small study was conducted where that showed that people were spending more time prompting AI than it would have taken just to complete the damn task, right? So, but at some point, if AI can anticipate what you need to do, I know it does. It kind of prompts you now to some degree. Then I think that's going to be very helpful. Or how you set up. I don't use Microsoft tools very much, so but being able to anticipate effectively, I think would be. For me, it's all planning.
Yeah, I think personally, that initial investment in getting the prompts to work properly does take a little bit of time. But where I tend to focus my energy on those types of things are things I know I'm going to do repetitively. And once I get that prompt solid, I'll save it and use it a lot. And that's where the productivity improvement comes over time. Again, the collaborating with your teammates and finding what's been useful to them and steal their prompts. Most people are pretty willing to share amongst your colleagues, so.
I'll also add that I think that's where the agents come in. So you're going to set an agent to go do a particular task, and then you're going to schedule that agent to do something. So every morning at 6 a.m., I want X, Y, and Z to occur. You can schedule that. So I want an email summary of all the things that happened over the past 12 hours in my inbox in the morning so I can read it. Rather than taking 2 hours to read something, you're now down to 15 minutes. It's time savings. You can schedule those things. You can have those things from an organizational perspective. So I think agents is like the first step in that. I don't know if there's going to be a contiguous sort of deep neural network that's going to continuously learn and then have you prompted with like, oh, I've already thought of these 65 things that I want to do on your behalf based upon your behavior. Maybe eventually it'll get there, but it's not here today. But the agents is like the first step in that.
We have one more question.
Hi, looking back at the incentives that were listed, it made me think of how frequently is the the trove of information that Copilot has, how frequently is it updated? So for instance, if I write a script, it includes a neutral word in it, the next day that word has negative connotations, or incentives have changed, et cetera, et cetera. So how timely is it?
In terms of the LLM itself, like how long, like?
Does it know that the incentives have gone away?
Oh, right, yeah. So the answer is sort of. I was planning my vacation around a production shoot. The answer is the LLMs themselves are sort of monolithic in the way that they're built out. So less so on that side. However, there's the web portion. So having access to the internet and being able to identify the information based upon the search results. We run a search engine. It's probably most of you guys have never used it, called Bing. This is my free plug for it. Usually just Google, yeah. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, so the ability for it to go out to the internet and pull the information, then collate it, and then sort of discern over it is part of what's built into it. So the answer is a little bit of A and a little bit of B, but I think you can get what you're looking for between those two things.
On that note about prompting you talked about, so there's a bunch of learning documents we have. Prompting is more closely related to the model you're using. It could be a text model or an image model or a video model. But in general, I recommend folks to follow 4 major things when you write a prompt. I have a slide too. I generally say it's like a goal. I don't know if I can present this one. So I generally say you try to make sure you follow the 4 main concepts of what goal you're trying to achieve, what is the context, source, and your expectation. So as long as you kind of have this minimum categories lined up in your prompt, then you get a better output of the results. And this may change a little bit for your text-to-image models, text-to-video models, where you have to say scene content, what's happening on the scene, my lighting, kind of like camera movements, and then the auxiliary things that's happening on the screen. So it depends upon what model you're working with. The prompts has to change a bit, but in general, if you follow these 4 components to be in your prompt, you get better outputs.
All right, that's fantastic. Love that. To have a big hand for our friends at Microsoft.